It's time for another lap around the track with all the latest in motorsports interviews. Sometimes we get bent feelings, but we can't wait for the Bent Fender Podcast with your hosts, Nathan Conway and Wes Llewellyn.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of the Bent Fender Podcast. I'm Nathan Porkchop Conway. With me, as always, is Wes, the microphone Llewellyn. That was important.
What?
Yeah, well, we couldn't call you the microphone this week because had a little side gig going on this week at Windy Hollow Speedway. Got asked to do the on-track interviews, and that's a pretty cool deal.
I did. I think I just find myself in the right place at the right time, or maybe somebody fell down some stairs from some marbles or something. I don't know. I didn't do that. But no, Misty asked me if I wouldn't mind helping out Jake. He was having some back issues, and going up and down the steps was a little bit more difficult for him. So
Right.
I absolutely will pitch in and help where I can.
Well, the cool thing about it is now the entirety of the BMR crew, what is it?
BFP.
BFP, I don't know. But anyway, the entirety of the BFP crew has been able to do the on-track interviews at Windy Hollow.
And it's a pretty cool deal. I was nervous, and I felt like I didn't do as good as I could. And I think going forward, if I get the opportunity to do it again, it will be much better, and I will be more confident. So I just don't flow as well as you or say a Barry Barnes does. So I'm getting there, though.
Well, your first time, it's the hardest time because you don't know what to expect, and maybe you don't know all of the racers, and that's the thing is you're not there every week. But we talk about it happened at Windy Hollow, but we can do that for anyone. If they
Absolutely.
need us, just call us. We'll, if the schedule allows, we can definitely get down there and help you out, whatever you need us to do. I think it'd be a pretty cool deal if we could start doing that for a lot of the tracks. We wouldn't mind to do that. So we don't mind to sell ourselves.
Absolutely not.
We sell ourselves cheap.
We are a cheap date. That is true.
We are.
But
just let us into the racetrack and we'll do anything you need. So.
I may not know the racers, but the magic of Post-it notes and an ink pen makes me seem like less of an idiot on the track.
Well, and that's the thing, and I think any promoter, not promoter, but any announcer could tell you that at some point they had to figure out things for themselves,
for sure.
and maybe they didn't know all the racers at the time, and crib notes are okay,
No, it's cool. It's a good thing, and we had we had a big weekend of racing this weekend.
You did.
Cedar Ridge ran. KMS had a huge 3-day show out at Kentucky Motor Speedway. Windy Hollow had a huge 2-day show. Separate shows, but it was still 2 days at the Holler. Mm-hmm. Had a big drag race, bike show, car show, a little bit of everything for everybody on Saturday. And then they had their race on Memorial last night. So we had 2 Memorial races and a regular race weekend at Cedar Ridge. So
and as well as West Kentucky Speedway in action as well. The racing in this region this weekend, every track was running. One of the only tracks that was off, I guess, was Rockport Raceway,
I believe.
But pretty much everywhere was running. You could go to any dirt track or asphalt track around here. I think even maybe Highland Rim down there ran too. So it was a big weekend of racing, and it saw the return of the Windy Hollow Dragway.
Absolutely.
It's been dormant for several years, and a lot of effort went into that from the Westerfield family to get that off the ground. Many helpers out there. I mean, from dragging trees out of things and painting and doing burnouts to help the track, whatever you needed to do.
Right.
There was plenty to do, even if you were weed eating. It made a big difference. So, congratulations to all of those guys for having a successful weekend down there. It seemed like everybody could do nothing but positively talk about it. And another big night for the Race On Memorial. We're recording this. It was just last night. I myself got to participate in that.
You did?
We got to go out there and take the old 40 machine out there and race. And we won't get off in the ditch too much talking about our race team, but we like to boast a little bit, and we got to get out there and had a good time. About 14 cars ran the B feature. About 14 cars in the race. We started next to last row and was able to drive up to 5th, even after a flat tire. Would sideline us there for a second, but got back on the track just in time and drove up to a 5th place finish. Not too shabby. Top 5 is not bad, considering the caliber of cars that were even in the B feature. Very, very fast hot rods. I mean, it is what it is. And, when you got to race the best, you just got to do what you can. And I was lucky to finish 5th, and my car made it all the way to the end. So had a great time.
Well, I'm going to brag on your crew for a minute because you said you were sidelined for just a minute with that flat tire, and it was literally just a minute. I mean, you had to drive off into the pits and get that tire changed, and you guys knocked it out. I mean, it was
I didn't have a hand in it. I was just in the seat.
It was a textbook showing of what a pit crew should do, and big shout out to those guys for making that happen for you.
Right, and I appreciate that to everybody that helped. I mean, I know there was guys from other crews even coming over to help, and but we thank everybody and all the crew that was there with us. That was a pretty good deal. But switching sides, talking about Kentucky Motor Speedway,
right.
Big 3-day show. We were able to go out there with Bluegrass Motorsports Media, do a remote out there as well as you did from Windy Hollow Dragway.
It's true.
And the Speedway. But we were able to go out there and do a Bluegrass Motorsports Media live from out there. And it was pretty cool, talking to Brad Payne and him getting to talk about what their big show was going to be for the whole weekend there, the Scott Thompson Memorial Weekend. Started out Friday night with practice. Several cars showed up for practice, I heard. Saturday night, big race, 145 laps, would ultimately be won by Logan Borman.
Mm-hmm.
Hadn't raced out there most of the year, but Logan, he got to beat Brett Hudson. I saw in his little interview with that Blake did with him after the race was a pretty cool deal. And, to beat Brett Hudson, especially on the high banks out there at Kentucky Motor Speedway, it says something because those guys always bring their A game. It was a serious deal. So to have them do that was pretty cool. They had the regular night of racing on Sunday night.
Right.
So, big show out there all weekend long. A lot of cars hung around from the big race and got to race the regular night of racing there in the sportsman division. Not all classes got to race on Saturday night. Then I think they had scrappers, Legends cars, and the big, sportsman race. And then on Sunday night it was back to regular racing. And we call it regular racing, but it's a good show.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody needs to go out there and watch it, you're not going to sell yourself short, because if you like asphalt racing, Kentucky Motor Speedway right there at Whitesville, Kentucky, my hometown right now, hey, it's a great place to be, and we support those guys.
Absolutely.
Also, Richard and the bunch down there, Richard and Angie, had a great showing down at Cedar Ridge. I think almost 90 cars down there.
Right.
Western Kentucky Speedway had another big show. Their Isaac Shoulder 6-shooter series continues. Say that about 15 times fast. But Isaac Shoulders, you lost that young man several years ago, and I think it's pretty cool what they're doing for him and putting on a 6-shooter series, 6 races. I know they got a couple of rainouts, but still staying true to it. They're running a points championship down there. So if anybody can get down there and get involved in that, I mean, you can still get in on the points. I don't know how well you'll do, but you might be able to climb the ladder pretty quick. You never know.
Absolutely.
So again, it's been a big weekend of racing, and it's so cool to see that. And we've got a lot of race cars on display and a lot of racing on display. It was tough to figure out where you wanted to spend your racing dollar this weekend.
Absolutely.
Whether you wanted to go straight line, asphalt, dirt, you could have done it all.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I got to do this weekend, aside from track interviews, we talk about how people see me as kind of a success story of bringing somebody from the outside, and I got to do that this weekend. We have a gentleman that we're working with on some promotional stuff, and he had never been to a dirt track race, never been to a dirt track at all in his life,
right.
And got to bring him out to Windy Hollow and show him around the track and introduce him to some people, and I got to watch his perception change. And I think that's one of the coolest things in the world, because that's what this is about. That's what we do. We educate. We make this big and awesome for the community. So, can't be mad about that whatsoever.
No, and that's a good thing about it, is bringing those outsiders in, showing them what we're all about. And you had somebody who knows now the ins and outs of what goes on out there to show him around, and was welcomed into the track by the Westerfield family, and we're glad to have him.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be a pretty cool deal going forward. November the 3rd. But anyway, so if you remember November the 3rd, just do that. Don't forget it. But anyway, big weekend of racing. We can tout about it all day. Any hot button issues that we need to discuss this week?
No, I think everything's pretty cool. I mean, cooler heads have prevailed. I don't think there's a lot of butt hurt going around, or if there's not, it's not happening very loudly.
Well, it was cool all week.
It was. That's true. And going into that, we get to go talk to a pretty cool guy today, a pretty level-headed guy.
Right, and we don't want to sell that short because It is Field Trip Friday.
We haven't done that in a while.
Right, we haven't done that in a while. We took a break from being there at Fairview IT Mansion. We were down here at Skillz VR Arcade. Been welcomed in by the Feher family. Donny Feher, his son Brent Feher, own this place. Pretty cool deal. And we got to do a Bluegrass Motorsports Media live remote from here.
And it's exciting because it's nerdy stuff. It's an arcade, and it feels like home to me.
It's not the type of arcade that you normally think about when you got Pac-Man and the Terminator game or a NASCAR simulator, like a video game.
Right.
What Skillz VR Arcade is, and you'll probably be able to talk about this a little bit. I guess people have seen the VR glasses that you can put on, headset that you can put on. It's got its own headphones and sound, and it's just different. It's different from other places.
Well, it's a fully immersive experience. Once you put the headset on, you have a 120-degree field of view of what's around you. So if you turn your head to the left, to the right, then you get to see everything that's going on. The headphones sit on your ears pretty tightly, so that way you don't hear much of what's going on outside of that. So it immerses you into the world. You've got a controller in each hand that will represent your hands in the game, whichever game you're playing. So if you're playing a shooting game and you're firing a pistol or a revolver, that's in your hand and you can see it in the game. And it's just a really immersive experience. And they even have they've got some racing simulators set up where you can sit in they call them 4D because the seats actually move. So as you're going around the track, the seat's going to move with you, and you're going to bump and everything, and you're going to feel it. And then they've got an extreme machine simulator where you use your entire body as the controller. So whether it's a motorcycle or whatever other game you play, your body is the controller. Right. So
it's not the old school Nintendo Power Pad.
No, not at all.
And the VR and the glove.
No, you are not smacking the pad playing track and field to run faster. No, it is not that at all.
Yeah, it's not that. But again, we want to say that Donny Feher coming on the show today is going to be a big episode, and a guy that's raced a long, long time. He's a bridge from. I love doing these episodes with guys that I used to watch and be around when I started racing, and now that they are doing the same thing, and still competitive to this day. They haven't lost their drive, they haven't lost their fire for the sport, and they haven't lost their competitive edge. So. To me, that's a good way to be.
Agreed.
It's a good thing to see those guys still out there, helping this younger generation, and especially, Donnie's out there still racing, back from a 8-year break, but he's out there racing, and also his son Brent is out there racing and got a first feature win this year. Donnie has many feature wins and got a few in the last few years. Just picked up right where he left off. So it's pretty cool to be a part of that family.
Absolutely.
To be. Well, we're not part of that family. I guess we are the racing family, but that his family's out there doing it, and they're doing it together, and that's a pretty cool deal. So, anything we got left to talk about? I think we covered most of it from this weekend.
No, I think we're good. I do we do our housekeeping stuff, and we talk about those things, and how I like to make sure that the podcast is everywhere and anywhere it can be.
It's everywhere you want to be.
And we recently found 2 new hosting platforms that hadn't been visited by the Bent Fender podcast, and I was remiss over that, so I had to make sure that I got those out there. So on top of all of our outlets, which you can get the podcast from iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict, Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, YouTube, and you can now get the podcast on Overcast and Radio Public. So
Overcast and Radio Public.
Overcast and Radio Public, 2 brand new outlets for you. So you are going to be able to trip over it all over the internet.
Well, that's good, and that's good for us because, and the one thing I do love is getting shout-outs at racetracks when we're there and we're having fun. Hey, I hope we get shout-outs when we're not there.
Oh. We were class sponsors on trophies.
We were. The cruiser class, I guess.
Yep.
We were third place.
First
trophies.
and third place.
First and third place. I like being on the winner trophy. That's a pretty cool deal. So, Bent Fender Podcast is everywhere.
It is. Taking over the world.
That's it. Begin the brain. No, it's not.
Where can they find us on the internet?
Well, they can find us on the internet. You can find us on Facebook, Conway Racing Team. You can also find us the Bent Fender Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Conway Race Team, Instagram Conway Racing, www.conwayraceteam.com, racingteam.com, and also the bentfenderpodcast.com. One thing we want to give a shout out to is our friend Jimmy Rhodes. A big hand in putting on, and it's just coming up in a couple of weeks, the Vet City Music and Motorcycle Rally.
2 days.
Yes, it's going to be 2 days, October 12th and 13th, Bowling Green, Kentucky, the National Corvette Museum. That's where you want to be. It's the hot ticket. Going to be huge deal for motorcycles, show cars, music. I think Gretchen Wilson is the headliner on October the 12th.
On the Friday.
Yes, and then Brett Michaels himself is going to be the headliner on Saturday night, on the October the 13th. So get your tickets now. They're still on sale. I don't know about VIP status, but, hey, everybody's a VIP. It's probably not a bad seat in the house. It's going to be a huge rocking event. Stuff going on all day long. Burnout contests for the motorcycles. Show cars. Again, like I said, anything you want to be down there. Food. It's going to be music all day, every day. It's going to be awesome. So, make sure you get down to Bowling Green October 12th and 13th to the Vet City Motorcycle and Music Fest. It's going to be a big time. So, without further ado, we want to go ahead and our sponsors here, and that's Mach 5 Race Cars, Parts and Carts, Fairview IT Management, Chad's Barbershop, Martin's Towing and Recovery, Glenstone Construction, Slingshot Media, Red Star Graphics, Lori Kimball Home Realty, High Octane Racewear and Apparel, and also Willie's Carburetor Dyno Shop. They all help us out. So, big time. I want to give a special shout out to Jeff Christensen and also Michael Clark for helping me get back on track. They did some big work for me, and out of the goodness of their hearts, and they were able to help me out, and it paid off a little bit last night, and we had a good time. So, man, I don't think we have anything else to, get out and support your local racetrack.
Hashtag support local racing.
Exactly. Keep that hashtag going. Make sure you tag it and everything. Whatever that might be. If that's soapbox derby, go-karts, stock cars, drag racing, coming in here and run on these simulators, man. Support local racing in that aspect as well. So make sure you find Bluegrass Motorsports Media on Facebook as well to keep up with results and everything like that. It's a good place to do that. We like to bring breaking news. We like to try to get out how we can. You know what I mean? Because that's important for us. So, Wes, I think what we need to do is quit wasting Donnie's time.
I think so.
Because he's chomping at the bit, man. He's like pacing the room. And we need to get him on this microphone because I know he's got some great stories to tell. So without further ado, we're going to roll into that first commercial break, and we're going to be back on the other side right here at Skillz VR Arcade with Donny Feher.
The Vet City Motorcycle Music Fest, brought to you by Bowling Green Daily News and D93.
It just got bigger.
It's the Harley-Davidson Bowling Green Vet City Motorcycle Music Fest kickoff party, Thursday, October the 11th, 5 to 11 p.m. Rockin' Harley-Davidson of Bowling Green on Cumberland Trace Road, featuring Kiss Kiss Bang, The Hoots, Jasmine Kane, and the Josephines Live, plus beer garden, food vendors, and more. This party's all free. Brought to you by Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys and Bluegrass Biker News. Get more at VetCityMotorcycleMusicFest.com.
You know Fairview IT Management is your one-stop shop for all your home computing needs. But did you know they are also one of Owensboro's leading business automation services, offering network automation, system administration, and remote managed support? Fairview IT Management can become your help desk to help you reduce staffing costs and keep your bottom line low. Give Gabriel Kirtley a call at 270-228-4339 for all your business technology needs.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We told you it was going to be another Field Trip Friday here, or Field Trip whatever day this is posted. So we took the trip down here to Skillz VR Arcade, and we're going to sit here with Donny Feher, just like we said, longtime driver, competitor on the tracks, has been asphalt and dirt. Donny, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you being on here, and man, just a lot of driving history in your career and things that you've been able to do. And again, this is one of those shows where we're bridging the old school to the new school because, back in the day, Donny was tearing up the tracks and then took a little while off and came back and never lost that competitive edge.
Thank you.
Well, buddy, tell us how it all started. I mean, when you got introduced to racing, take us all the way back to when it started.
Well, I was going to say my dad started racing when I was about, I think, 4 or 5 years old. I think he started in like 79. And out there at Whitesville, and he run a little mini stock Well, first he started out with a Camaro, with about a '67 Camaro.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he went to a Nova, and then he started running mini stock. And I just remember growing up out there, and little kids, we'd race around the trees in the back behind the bleachers. I mean, everything was racing, you know, back then. And then once I got 16, I started helping Bill Mormon, and then I think I drove my first car when I was 18.
Wow.
So I've been driving ever since. Yeah, I took about an 8-year break.
Well, talk about you know, you going to the track there at Kentucky Motor Speedway, and how it was different back in the late '70s, early '80s. A lot of big names raced there back then.
Yeah, I think my dad, he raced with the Greens. Actually, Jeff Green set my dad's car up, and raced with Michael Waltrip. I remember all them, you know, racing out there.
Well, that's some pretty tough names, you know, especially out there on those high banks, the way it used to be, the old quarter-mile track. You know, lots of history with those guys out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of history. I just remember growing up, you know, seeing everybody out there racing.
Right. And that's a lot of good memories, you know, and to have that, to be able to do that when it was live. You know, I was not able to do that, not quite as old, but we didn't get to see those guys race very much. It had to be when they came back years later. But, you know, you talked about, you brought up that name, Bill Mormon. We'll talk about Bill for just a second. What was it like meeting Bill Mormon for the first time? And, you know, I think back then he might not have been as, he wasn't the old man yet, but.
No, he wasn't the old man yet. I think I met Bill when I was 16. I was friends with his daughter, Amy, and went to school with her, and then we hung out. And Bill started a race, and I started helping him, and kind of led from there.
Right. Well, you know, a lot of guys, that's the way that it starts out for them, is being able to work in the pits, just go to a race and then start working in the pits and things like that. And that's a lot of times where the fire to drive comes from.
Yeah, I'm going to say I always wanted to drive. I mean, you know, ever since my dad raced, I mean, that's all I ever thought about. My bicycle, I raced it, you know. I mean, whatever I was doing, it was all about racing.
Well, that is true, and that's a good thing to grow up in a racing family, because, you know, the way we look at it, some of it is it just keeps people out of trouble. When you can work on those cars and take out aggression on those cars and things like that before you can go to the racetrack.
Yeah, and you ain't going to have the money to do anything else.
That's right. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed since then. I mean, it might have got a little more expensive, but nothing's changed.
Right.
Well, talk about that first time you were getting able to drive. Now, how did all this come about to where you were going to get a car or get into someone's car? Tell us the story of how it all unfolded.
Well, let's see. I bought an old car from Kenny Rudd.
Oh, Kenny.
Yeah. And actually, I took it out to Whitesville, and they told me don't put it in low, put it in second. Well, it wasn't the gear that it needed to be in, so I pulled her back. And sure enough, I blew it up in turns 1 and 2 and going backwards. But we ended up getting an old motor, and I went racing, I think, Chandler and a few other places, and then Windy Hollow started running there. But I remember crawling in that car and them legs be shaking, just excited, ready to go.
Yeah. Well, you know, that first year there, talk about how it was to be behind that wheel for the first time and being able to didn't really, I mean, you've been around the races and, you know, you've seen people drive, but you hadn't got to drive yourself, so you're just like, well, I got to get out here and figure it out.
Yeah, and actually my first race at Windy Hollow, I was running behind Ronnie Johnson, and man, I mean, I was beating his back bumper up, but I couldn't pass him. You know, I'm just out there just learning. And I remember after the race was over, I'd come in through there, and then Jug Colley, he stopped me, and he crawled all over me. He was like, boy, he said, if you can beat that back bumper, you can pass him. I was like, okay, you know. He actually thought it was Curtis was in the car, but it was me.
Well, words of wisdom from Jug Colley, who, you know, we've lost in the last couple of years, but that had to be something to get that butt chewed by a legend like that.
Oh yeah. I felt pretty good. I think that night I finished 4th or something like that. So, I mean, I was just tickled pink just to be able to be right on their back bumpers.
Now, from that first season, did you run a full season, try to run a full season, or did you just get to run a handful of races?
I just ran a handful of races here and there. Actually, I don't think I ran a full season until probably 2004 when I did the figure 8.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get to that. So did you stay at Windy Hollow for? And we know that's your home track. And obviously didn't live very far from there.
Yeah.
But that was your home track. And so how did you? How did it progress through that first season? And did you guys just keep building on it, or did you try to get different cars, or how did it go?
Well, ended up with different cars, and then back then we ran all the tracks, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Right.
I think in '99 we had a car I was driving for Curtis Stallings.
Right.
And we was just going around from track to track, and actually we had a good year. Was winning everywhere we went. It was fun. Had a big target on the car though.
Now, why was that?
Well, I don't know. For some reason, nobody likes the winter.
That is true. Sometimes that definitely does happen that nobody likes the winter, but that was neat. So where did you get your first win? Did it come in those first seasons, or did you have to wait a while?
I had to wait a little bit. I think I waited a few years before I won my first race.
Right. And a lot of people don't put, they make the mistake of putting too much pressure on winning. And I think it's important to be humble and you've won your fair share of races now. We're talking to you now and won a ton of races. But I think it's humbling for people to just be easy, and those wins will come.
Yeah, wins will come. You got to finish the race first.
That's right. To finish first you must finish. I think we've heard that a couple of times. But whenever I met you was around the same time when you were running figure eight. Now the old Zero car. The little white car out there had some epic battles with Junior Horn, Jeff Macy. But talk about how it came about that you guys were wanting to run figure eight.
Well, the money was right.
That's
how it started.
They
was paying I think $1,000 to win, and I just decided let's try it, and actually in 2004 we had a really good season. I think I won most of them out there at Windy Hollow. I traveled around. I went to Calvert City down there. I won a race down there, but that's about as far as it. Just dirt. Didn't do no asphalt figure eight.
Well, a lot of people remember Calvert City, Kentucky Lake Motor Speedway. Used to run it was a very, very good figure eight track that they had down there, and also a nice racing facility. Sad that that's gone by the wayside because it was such a beautiful facility down there.
Yes, it was. Actually, when I ran figure eight, you could go faster through the corners than you could the straightaways.
A lot of banking there.
Yes, a lot of banking. I like that track.
Well, it was a really nice track, and I think that's it's a cautionary tale of what politics and money will actually do to a sport, and we've got to be wary of that whenever we we're talking about our home tracks here because it can very well happen there as well. We got to be very, very vigilant.
Yes, we do.
Well, Donny, tell us about some of those nights running figure eight there at especially Windy Hollow, and it was always a big time. I remember when there was going to be a figure eight race, and most of the time they only ran once a month or twice a month or something like that, but it was always big money, and it would always attract a fair group of cars to get out there and run.
Yeah, I think a lot of them Louisville boys, they come down and ran in it. I'm going to say, I'd have to say the most memorable time was, I think it was Unconscious Johnson was, me and him was running, and he was leaning on me a little bit going down the straightaways, and like he was trying to put me in a pond, and well, I just hit the brakes, and whoop, there he went, right into the pond.
Splish splash, huh?
Yeah. And then next thing you know, he's back out there a few laps later. And that car went all the way up to the roof. After he climbed out of it, it went down to, there was about 2 or 3 inches of it sticking up out of the water. And they pulled it out, and I think it was like 2 or 3 laps later, he was back out there.
Didn't fill everything up, you know what I mean?
Right.
But that's what, like I said, the memories that I have from those figure eight days. And I got to run out there Windy Hollow and figure eight racing myself. But it was so much fun being able to, see that going on. And like I said, it was such a big time out there, and it just attracted so many people to Windy Hollow.
Yeah.
And I think that's lost on it a little bit, but I don't know if cars are more expensive now or if it's nobody just wants to get out there and maybe get X'd like they used to.
Right. I was going to say, it was a little different, running. There was, kind of dusty a little bit. So a lot of times going through the X, I just close my eyes.
That's the best thing. You might as well not see it coming.
Right, I didn't want to see him about 10 feet away from me going to hit me, so I just closed my eyes, went right through there.
We'll talk about running a figure eight race versus running an oval track race. Again, I understand what it feels like, but a lot of people, out there not familiar with figure eight racing, maybe know what it looks like, but inside that car, it's just so much different from the round track.
Yeah, because being on dirt, it ain't like you can stop right away. So if you was going to go through the X, you had to be looking at the corner and had to look at the other corner down there at the end and see who was going to be meeting you in the X. So it ain't like you could just slam on the brakes last minute. You had to know in the middle of the corners before if you was going to stop or go.
And a lot of people, they made that decision a split second, and sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't.
Yeah. I was pretty fortunate. I never took a driver's door hit. I mean, I've had both bumpers knocked off in a race. That's about it. I was going to say I got pretty lucky out there.
Right. And again, it was just a thrilling time to see. If people don't remember that, and we talk about, back then, we had a lot of cars. I mean, just a whole lot of cars. And people were able to run, it was the old cruiser cars, and a lot of people were able to run roundy round that same night and get out there in a figure eight race, try to get them a little extra payday.
Yeah, I ran both, matter of fact. I ran the figure eight and the circle track in the same night.
That's a lot of work.
Yes, it is. I was a lot younger back then, too.
Oh, that's true. That is true. You mentioned Unconscious Johnson, old Raymond Johnson, and
Yes.
John Utley and some of those guys would come down from Louisville, big-time racers at Sportsdrome Speedway, and also they'd run around the old Louisville Motor Speedway. These guys were hardcore, and people that don't remember them, you really had to watch out because they did not care to X you.
No, they didn't.
But hard-nosed competitors, though,
Yes, it was. I mean, it was some good racing. I mean, it was hard racing. It was just fun.
Oh, yeah.
It was just fun.
Well, you did mention, or we did mention another name, Jeff Macy. Back doing fairly well in the cruiser class these days. Took a little break himself. But, that Dolphin used to go through that X about every time they had a race. And, man, you guys had some battles.
Yeah, we had some battles. And then Dwayne Richardson, he would be up in there too. Junior Horn, I mean, we was all battling. We was all right there. I mean, there probably wasn't a second in between all of us. I mean,
those guys were tough now. And you talk about that's where Insane Dwayne got his nickname, was that figure eight racing. And, man, some hard hits in those old kink cars too.
Yes. But they was built well, so you could take a lick, but at least you would walk away. The car might not, but you would.
That's right. I remember one night, Dwayne being out there, and I don't know what happened, but boy, they folded that car up. The daggum transmission and engine was just about over in his lap.
Yeah, and actually, I think that he might have won that race by several people getting DQ'd that night, if I ain't mistaken.
Well, there's always, hey, you win, you know what I mean? That's how it goes sometimes.
That's right.
Well, one name I do want you to talk about again is Junior Horn. Sadly we lost Junior a couple years ago, and Junior, man, was tough as they come too. Local hero around here. A lot of people liked him. If you didn't like him, he didn't care, and but he was still going to race the same, and was very, very good behind the wheel as well. But you got the privilege of running with Junior a little bit.
Yeah, actually, Junior Horn won his first race in mine and Curtis's car.
Wow.
Yeah. He ran one of our cars for a year or two, I believe, and I know he won the first race in our car. So I know Junior since high school. We went to high school together. I mean, it was.
Was he always that big?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I didn't know him back in high school, so I was wondering, boy, he's a big guy.
Yeah, he was always that big.
But Junior was. And we're coming off the Race on Memorial Weekend, and talking about people that have gone on but left so much to the legacy of racing, especially at Windy Hall Speedway. Junior was one of those people.
Yeah, yes he was. I mean, he would help you. He would do anything for you. I mean, he was just one of them people. He was a really good guy.
Junior. Well, so now, did you run? How did it go in figure eight? I can't remember if it was a season full of points or if they just did them for money, or I can't remember how it went.
Well, in 2004 they ran for points because I was track champion in 2004 in the figure eight. and then I think 5 I ran a few races, but I think I got out of it after that.
Right. Well, again, you've had a lot of success back then, but bridging the gap to today took a little break. Different things in life, and we know that they happen. But talk about why you wanted to come back, and come back pretty strong in the bomber class. So how did that all come about?
Well, I took a break. I was coaching baseball. I coached baseball for about 8 years, and then I decided I was going to take a little break from baseball. And then I had Melvin. He asked me if I'd drive one of his cars, and I was like, well, sure. And then
why not?
That's all it took,
Well, the bomber class is a pretty competitive class, and that first year out there, you did very well for yourself. Those cars are set up good. We always expect that from the M&M crew. But tell us what it was like getting back on those banks of Windy Hollow Speedway after such a long time away.
It felt great. I'm gonna say actually fell right back in it. It was like I hadn't even left. It was just awesome. I can't say enough. I just love that track. The D, I don't know what it is. I like that track.
Well, that D-shaped oval is so much different from anywhere we race at Cedar Ridge Speedway, Western Kentucky Speedway. The track configurations are way different, but the D-shaped oval there at Windy is just conducive to so much speed.
Yes. Yeah, it is a fast track. And I noticed, like, your out-of-towners, they have a little trouble getting used to it. They want to let off a little bit in 3, and don't really let off until in about 4.
Just burp the throttle there to
Just
make sure you don't
bit.
hit that front stretch wall.
Right. I'm going to say, I think it was 2005, I found out that you couldn't hold them wide open all the way around the track. They just don't like, motors don't like it.
No, they don't. No, not there anyway, because they don't get a chance to rest,
right.
Going around that track.
Yeah, you got to let them things breathe. Even now, the bomber car, I can hold it wide open all the way around the track, but if you do that, it's only going to last for so many laps.
Right. You got to give it a little bit of time to rest there.
Yeah.
Even split seconds count in a race like that.
Yes. I'm just off the gas pedal for just, a second. It ain't much. Off and back on. Just let it breathe a little bit.
Well, I want you to talk to me about those bomber cars these days. And you remember where you left off, and it was the old cruiser class, circa around 2004, 2005. Is it different? Do the cars handle different? Do you kind of set them up the same way, just like we used to?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same way it used to, as far as the setups. We're not really supposed to do nothing to them, so
right.
They're supposed to be stock. So
stock, and no,
right.
But now they're trying to keep them that way. That's for sure. So it's
Yeah.
just a little bit of a beginner class, even though there's plenty of veterans in it now.
Yeah, the cars are pretty much the same, except you got more of a cage in them now.
Right.
Matter of fact, my first cruiser car, it didn't even have a cage in it. Out at Whitesville, we was just running for a trophy.
And and glad to get it, by golly, to get
Yes.
that trophy.
Yeah, and then I think Jack Vick took the track over at Windy Hollow, and he said, "Well, we'll give you $100 to come out here." So then here comes everybody out there.
Well, that was a no-brainer there, but
Yeah.
You can. It's funny how you can attract or distract drivers, racers with shiny things.
Yes.
You can just wave it, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I like that shiny thing over there. I can go race for that."
Yeah.
Well, I think it's funny, just to reminisce a little bit about how it used to be, and versus how it is now, and being able to pick up and left where you left off is just such an accomplishment.
Yeah, driving that bomber car when I drove from Melvin, it's it was just like where I left off. Get in there, give her some gas, and go.
Well, what made it? What came about to where you ran bomber that first year? Was it first or second year? I think 2 years maybe that you ran the bomber class, and then moved, and then the Rusty Bolt car came.
Yes, yeah, I believe. Let's see, 2015. I think I ran for Melvin, and then I drove the Outlaw 25 in 16 and 17.
Right.
And yes, I only had 1 year of bomber, and then 17 I drove the bomber and the Rusty Bolt.
Right. Double duty most nights.
Yes, double duty most nights.
Lots of money, and lots of time behind the wheel.
Yeah, and I think they did this on purpose too. They always put them back to back. So I would have to have somebody bring the car out to me from one race to the other.
But see, I guess it's like you can liken it to an athlete that if you play, football has, you play one half and then you get to go in the locker room for halftime, but you could come out, but you're already warmed up.
Yeah, you was already warmed up.
You're either already warmed up or already wore out. It's
Probably,
either one.
Yeah.
Because we do know, like I said, we were talking about Windy Hollow, and it is demanding on a car, but not only on a car, but on a driver. And, you carry a lot of corner speed at Windy Hollow. You got to use that wheel a lot, and you got to be up on it.
Yeah, you got to definitely be on it. And the Bombers are a little bit different because they don't have quick steers, so you really got to work that wheel.
and we know how that is sometimes when if you've never run with a quick steer, you are doing twice the work.
Yes.
In the same amount of time, so it does get rough on the old biceps there.
Yes.
Well, one thing about that is too, you can talk about this maybe if you've ever lost power steering at Windy Hollow Speedway, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. You get out of there just like you boxed with King Kong.
Yeah, and matter of fact, that 24-hour race that we just did a couple weeks ago, we lost power steering, so all of us was out there driving that thing. I mean, we probably had about 8 hours and no power steering. I mean, we was all wore out.
Well, we'll definitely get to the grocery getter here in just a few minutes, but one thing I want you to talk about in this, and I know it'd be near and dear to your heart, being out there racing, but your son, got a chance to drive, and get, Dad left the seat and then the son stepped in, and tell us about what it's like to being able to be out there with him and doing that with him.
Well, it's a little bit harder to sit back and watch your car go out there.
Now, son, listen now.
Right. I'm a lot more nervous when he's out there than when I'm out there.
I think it happens that way.
Yes. I'm very proud of him this year. I mean, he's done a great job out there. He's been very consistent. I mean, he's leading the points right now, which I think is pretty neat because that's going to make the third year on that car if he does pull it off. It's going to make the third year of the points champion on that car without even touching the motor. I mean, it's the same motor from 3 years ago.
Wow. And to be able to do that, I mean, that does take a lot to be able to put something together that will last that long, no less, but also, to be very competitive whenever it's on the racetrack.
Yeah, actually, I got that motor from my father-in-law. It come out of an old 72 pickup truck. It had about, I think, 80,000 something miles on it, and all we did was put bearings and rings in there. It still got the original pistons in there, the dish pistons, from 72. So, I mean, that thing's 3 years older than me, so I can't believe it's still going strong like it is. But
well, I think that's one of the things that we can talk about whenever we get to thinking about the old school stuff. And just how much better stuff was made then than having to buy this aftermarket stuff to harden, forge steel, and things like that. It was top notch right from the factory.
Right. I think the metals were just a lot better back then than they are now. So I think that's got a lot to do with it.
But I think it's pretty neat, man, that you guys as a family can get out there and have some fun together.
Actually, that's what it's all about, man. Being with your family. I mean, I think of everybody out there as my family. I mean, I've been racing with everybody out there for a long time, and I just enjoy it. I mean, it's in my blood.
Well, a lot of us do go way back out there and can remember, when the old cruiser class was, and you had a lot of people like Rockin' Ronnie Falloway, One Eye Tommy Brown was in there, Shane Sullivan, Misty Tucker. You were out there. I mean, we're talking about how 30 cars was a small night.
Yeah, I mean, because back then I think they was running a B main too.
Right.
We was having 2 features, so I mean, there was a bunch of cars out there. I mean, and a bunch of big names. So it was tough.
Guys that went on to have open wheel careers and go to different forms of racing. I mean, it's that was a great stepping stone for them.
Yeah, it was definitely a good stepping stone. I mean, because you had to battle. I mean, you had to really drive back in. I mean,
you did.
I mean, because somebody was wearing your bumper out.
Maybe Shane Sullivan. I don't know.
He
got me a couple times.
Yes, I mean, we was always back and forth. I mean, and what was not good about it is we could beat on each other's back bumper. I mean, and wouldn't take each other out. And then you take some of the rookies that if we did the same thing to them, they would spin out. So it was fun to run with him and some of the others. I mean. And I'm hoping, I think he's supposed to be coming back next year.
I've heard that.
Hopefully so. And
He was another guy that kind of picked up where he left off, and on his episode we did joke about that stuff, that he never lost the edge, and I think you're the exact same way. You never lost it. It just was lying dormant for 8 years.
Yeah.
Well, Donnie, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about that grocery getter race and getting everything ready to go, and we'll be back in just a second.
Whether you're buying or selling a home, you want to ensure your needs are met. Lori Kimball with Home Realty Incorporated is the realtor for you. In today's fast-paced society, it's important to have someone on your side that will give you the care and treatment you deserve. Lori wants to build a relationship with you, and it's her full-service commitment focusing on your family's wants and needs that sets her head and shoulders above the rest. You can contact Lori today at 270-315-1468. That's 270-315-1468. Or you can find her on the web at www.lorikimball.com. Call her today to unlock doors for your tomorrow by building a relationship with a realtor who's here for you.
Let's face it, we love racing. We need to keep those race machines in tip-top shape to stay competitive. That's why we rely on Mark V race cars and parts located at 2035 West 2nd Street in Owensboro, Kentucky. They specialize in stock cars, but you'll find all the parts you need for your racing go-karts as well. They are your go-to experts for parts, wheels, tires, fuel, and a wide variety of other items to keep you on the track. They have hundreds of parts in stock and can special order thousands of others. Give John Hayden a call at 270-240-5587.
And we're back from the break and sitting here with Donny Feher, VR Skillz Arcade here. Come down, check them out. Let's go give them a shameless plug here. Come down, check them out. You got racing simulators sitting over here, and people can have a lot of fun. You can race all kinds of different cars, and it's pretty neat little deal here.
Yeah, we got a lot going on here. We got the racing simulators. We got the extreme machine up there, and then we got all these stations with the Vive Pro in there.
Yeah. Seems like a lot of fun. Like I said, we got to check out the racing simulators earlier, and that was a pretty neat deal. But one thing I want to talk about is real racing, and just like we said before the break, you're a participant, part of the team in the 24-hour Grocery Getter Classic up there, Bearfield Motorsports Park, up in Upper Indiana there. And man, first of all, tell me how the idea came about, and who came up with it, and how'd you guys get to talking about it?
Well, we seen it advertised on Facebook, and we ain't never done nothing like that. And we was like, let's go up there and try it.
Now, was everybody just as like a campfire conversation or the under the hood conversation working on those race cars?
Working on the race cars under the hood conversation. I think we're always underneath the hood.
Oh yeah, that's how nobody looks at each other. They're just got their head down working, and that's how the whole conversation goes.
Yeah, I think most of the time we're just mumbling. We just know what the other one's saying.
There's a certain code around the garage there, but so this gets talked about, right? And so who comes up with it, and how did the idea start rolling there?
I believe Melvin probably come up with it, and I don't know. We just kind of figured out what kind of car. We come across the car, and we was like, well, this would make a good one, and we just put it, bought it, set it back there for a little bit. We didn't touch it for a little while. We was trying to get all the other cars going and everything, and then once we got them lined out, we started working on it, and then I tell you that actually the last 2 to 3 weeks we really worked on it hard.
Well, I had to get ready, and well, tell us what kind of car you guys had, and if people that don't know.
We had a 77 Monte Carlo, and we took I think a motor out of a 84 pickup truck, rebuilt it, put it in there. Actually, everything on that car was brand new. Wheel bearings, tie rods, everything. Because we wanted to last that whole 24 hours.
Right. Well, that's important, that's that an ounce of prevention. We hear that all the time. You're going to get ready for a 24-hour race just like you would a 24-lap race. You got to prepare your car.
Yeah, we prepared the car, checked everything over, practiced out at Whitesville, checked everything over again, and we took everything up there as far as spare parts. We took everything but a power steering pump. The one thing that we needed.
It's always something. If it had been a lug nut, by golly, you'd have forgot it. You know what I mean? That's always the way it works. And but tell us about this race first, and some of the rules. People that may not be familiar with it. Supposed to be a strictly stock race, right? No roll cages, no anything like that.
Yeah, we wasn't even allowed to put racing belts in it. I mean, everything had to be stock. And that's what we did. We went up there with everything was stock in this thing. I mean, we didn't even set up. Front end was straight up, just like your street car.
Right. Did you? Now I wanted to ask this because I didn't know, but I'd heard rumors that you had to have a radio. It had to have the full dash radio, all the gauge, everything had to be just like it was, just coming off the street.
Yes, had to have AM, FM radio that worked.
Wow.
Yeah, because they said they was going to talk to us through it, but I don't know what happened. We never did. They never did do that.
Through the AM, I can see. Just tune into the station. Everybody go. I'm tired of hearing them talk. Man, let's turn some music on.
Right.
Now, were you guys able to? Nobody could have iPods or anything like that, or did they want to have receivers, or what were they doing?
They told us no radio communication, hand signals only.
Right.
So
just like old school.
Old school.
Right. And you couldn't. You couldn't gut anything out. It had to have stock gas tank, right?
Yes.
And filler neck and things like that. Regular stock rims. I don't know if they were racing rims allowed or just
no,
just having stock
no
rims?
racing rims. Stock rims. Couldn't even have the 1-inch lug nuts. It had to be stock lug nuts.
Wow. It just seems like to me that's a safety issue, but I'd probably say 1-inch lug nuts are okay. I mean, $1 a lug nut, it's a cheap insurance,
Right.
But so you guys get ready to go. Had a few thrills and spills on the way up there with I guess a car messing out on you.
Yeah, we took off and we got to Henderson, went to fill up. Well, we filled up, went to pull out onto the road, and then a fuel pump went out of one of the trucks. So we wasn't too far. We was about 2 blocks over from Hertz, and we went down there and rented a truck and made it up there.
Well, and improvising is name of the game. So. So you got your big 77 Monte Carlo there, and tell us how it all came about to be kind of the special paint scheme that you guys came up with.
Well, since we had an old 77 Monte Carlo, we got the idea off the movie Cars. We'd do it up like Darryl Car Trip. And I got to talking with Josh Tyler, and he said, yeah, he could do it. So we took the car to him, and he did her up for us. Man, that thing looked good. I mean, we got so many compliments up there on how good a looking car it was. I mean, everybody was coming up taking pictures of it, and it was pretty neat. I was proud of it.
The old number 17 was on it. Not a number normally associated with the M&M crew. Maybe a 2 and a 5 it should have been 175 or something, but usually a 25 is on something, or an XXV, and that's it was pretty neat how you ended up with that paint scheme.
Yeah. It was real neat, looked really good. I don't know, I can't say enough about Josh. That car did look good. It still looks good. Matter of fact, we come out of there, we ran about 11, 12 hours, and only come out of there with 2 dents in it. So.
And they're not very big. I saw the pictures. Yeah. They're not very big. It's
Nope.
easily fixed. And it's funny, he's talking about Josh Tyler right now. We are down here at the arcade, and Josh himself has come in, and he's over in the racing simulator right now. So if you hear a little squeaking and creaking over there, that's him running some laps. So that's pretty neat he's in here. But so you guys pull up there. Tell us about race day when you got up there. What all the things you had to do, and the different things you had to go through.
Well, we got up there and we had to first thing go through tech line. They teched everything, checked everything on the car, gave us a little smiley face sticker to put on there.
Oh.
And then, we got everything situated, and then we just camped out, and then woke up in the morning. We didn't have much sleep. Couldn't sleep very much.
Everybody's fired up.
Everybody was ready to go. And, we pulled the car out on the track to get in line up, and then they gave us the race receivers to put on the car on the track. Well, I guess Chris was putting it on, and he looked up front and noticed there was something leaking. And so the fuel pump ended up leaking. Here's this thing, we've had this car together, practiced out there, everything was fine, and then it decides to leak right there, time to go. So we pulled it back off the track, fixed the fuel pump. We had to run a new fuel line to the carburetor.
Right.
Got it back out on the track, plenty of time, and started the race. And we started off on Chris driving. on the half-mile track, and I think they made, I don't know, probably about 15, 20 minutes into that race, and then they decided to go to the 3/8 track, because I think we was reaching speeds of around 100, somewhere between 95 and 100 at the end of the straightaway. So they decided they better slow them down a little bit.
On stock wheels, stock tires, suspension and things. I mean, I bet it was, even before the power steering issues, I bet it was a handful anyway.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. We was trying to take our time and last the whole 24 hours. I mean, there were some cars out there flying. I mean, there was this Smoking the Bandit Trans Am. I mean, this car was sharp, man. I mean, and he's out there just flying. I mean, he was just walking off, and but he only lasted about 3 or 4 hours, because I mean, he was just making his own holes, just doing whatever to get through there. But I mean, I couldn't believe all the different types of cars that was out there. I mean, there was BMWs. I mean, there was a Focus that had turbo. I mean, there was just, you name it, it was out there. I think I even seen a Prius out there.
I mean, hey, fuel economy is important, and you guys can speak to how much fuel economy would have helped a little bit.
Yeah, because I think we was going out there about an hour and a half, 2 hours. We was having to fuel up every time. So, I mean, if we would have lasted the whole 24 hours, I think we would have been somewhere between 160, 200 gallons.
Wow, 100 to 200 gallons of fuel.
Yeah.
And, those V8s are thirsty. Those 84 V8s are thirsty.
Yeah, they're real thirsty. But it was funny, my first time out there, the gas gauge, we're going off the gas gauge, and that thing, it's bouncing all around, and all of a sudden it was stuck on E. I was like, oh man, I better get in and get some gas before this thing runs out.
Put 5 gallons in it.
Well, I pull off the track, and it goes right up to half a tank. So we looked at something, and I went right back out there and finished running. So, but
it's getting wild in here, man.
Yeah, it is. But I can't say that was just a fun race. I mean, I'm ready to go back again next year.
Well, before we get off that, I want you to tell me, we got to talking during the break about some different things that went on, and so they know the speeds are getting up. You guys are really starting to cook around there. So they take the wreckers, and how do they block it up?
Yeah, they brought
some crazy stunts apparently.
Yeah, they did. They brought 3 of the wreckers out there, and then they kind of blocked the track off, and then they pointed to the other track for everybody to go through there. So everybody started going through there, and then they was running 3/8, so the wreckers pulled out of the way. And I mean, cars were breaking down, and they was going out there and pushing these cars while the race was still going on. And actually, there was one in turn 4 that hit the end of the wall and was stuck there. And the wrecker come out there, and one got behind it, one got beside of it, and the other one got out of his car and hooked this thing up while we're racing. I mean, I couldn't believe it.
It was a race and a show.
Yeah, it was a race and a show.
Well, how did another thing I know we got to talking about? Apparently, the wreckers wanted in on the fun too.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the wreckers jumped out there in front of me about 4 or 5 car lengths, and I mean, just took off, and I didn't know what he was doing, because you had to be careful, around him. But he started racing with us. I mean, I don't know. I think he was trying to chase somebody down, because I mean, he ran about 5 laps with us. I mean, at full speed, and then he jumps to the middle, and then he gets out of it. I see him pointing at somebody. I don't know what he was telling them or whatever, but I just couldn't believe he got out there and raced with us. They were not wearing helmets or nothing.
Wow.
I mean,
So now you guys obviously required to wear a helmet and things like that, I would assume. But so it's just that, tell us about being in a race like that, and how, obviously, we know about enduros and things like that, maybe 100-lap enduros. I mean, this is a 24-hour race.
Yeah. We was going, we was taking turns however long the gas would let us go, and then we would switch drivers. And then a few of the times, we pulled in, checked things over, our exhaust would loosen up a little bit. We tightened that up and just, kind of go over everything, check the car, because we wanted to last the whole 24 hours. So.
Right.
But it was definitely different. We was trying to pace ourselves, we wasn't just going out there just flying. I mean, we did, I think, 11 or 12 hours, whatever we did. It was, we only went through 2 right fronts.
Wow.
I mean, the left side still looked brand new. I was really surprised on how well the tires held up. You know, we wasn't pushing or nothing, but.
Well, it's hard to. Well, I think two things have come into play there. A, you have a lack of safety equipment. I mean, you've got the original 1977 seatbelt, and then you got a helmet on, right? But that should stop everything, right? Were you guys required to wear long pants, racing jacket, or were there guys out there in short sleeve shirts and all this?
Actually, I don't know. I mean, we all wore our jackets and everything.
Right.
We all had, long pants on and everything. But I'm not sure if they actually required it or not.
Wow. But again, there's two schools of thought, though. You got you've got to, I mean, especially anybody, you can't win the race on the first lap. Apparently, the guys in the Trans Am thought you could. But,
yeah, he was trying.
Yeah, it's a 24-minute race, apparently. But, being out there that long, I mean, you just know. You've got to last. So there's all this stuff going on in your mind of having to last, making the car last. Your strength has to last because, I mean, everybody's got to stay up all night to run this race.
Yeah, and that was part of the problem. We needed more pit crew up there because none of us drivers got any break. I mean, we was doing something the whole time, getting ready for the fuel for the next time, running down to the gas station, getting the fuel for the next time. I mean, it was something else. I mean, we had no break. And then when the power steering, being out, we was wore out on top of it. We didn't have much sleep, the night before. Actually, the last couple of weeks, we haven't had much sleep trying to get this thing together. We was out in the garage till about midnight every night, for the 2 weeks, trying to get this thing ready. So we was already wore out going up there. So that didn't help nothing, And then the power steering, lose that. I mean, yeah, poor Bill, he got out of the car. He was soaked from head to toe. I mean,
he was in it, buddy.
Yes. Actually, the power steering went out on him while he was out there.
Maybe you guys should have put one of those little dash fans in there to keep everybody cool.
Yeah. We had the defrost working a little bit because we didn't know how at nighttime it was going to do. We had the wipers; they worked and everything. So
did it have? I don't know if the car would have had AC on it. Did you guys remove that, or did it have to go back stock?
We did remove that, and we actually removed the heater core too. But we just had the fan blowing. There was enough heat from the engine going through it that.
I bet there was. Did you guys have to run with the windows down, or did you just do that on purpose? Or
well, they told us we had to take the windows out, all of them but the windshield.
Okay.
So windows were down. We had no window net, so I mean that was different for me. I mean, I'm used to a window net, so that was a little bit hairy, but
being able to just see that guy right next to you.
Right next to you.
So, all right, you guys are out there running, and again, I think it's funny how you just mentioned that having to fuel the car, and somebody's having to run down to the gas station, fill these gas cans up to make sure we got enough fuel to fuel the car.
Right. I think we got 2 stops, and then somebody had to run down and get it. I think we had like 8 or 9 fuel jugs, 5-gallon fuel jugs, and we'd run down there and fill them up and bring them back.
What did the car hold? 20 some odd gallons, or?
Yeah, I think we was close to a 20-gallon tank. Mm-hmm. We usually put about 15 gallons in it each time.
Right, just so you got a good starting point to know how much fuel you're using, I guess.
Right, because wouldn't want to run out on the track and not be able to get back to the pits.
Exactly. So just say you're several hours in. Did it start setting in on your brain that you're like, oh, here I go for my fuel run now. Here's my 2 hours to be out here, and you get back in the car and you're just like, and Bill gets out and he's like, by the way, you ain't got no power steering.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Right. And actually, we tried to find another one. Bill, when he got out of the car, he took off and went to the parts store trying to find us one, and I went out there and after him, and then actually Chris went out after him and ran. Then he came in. I went out there and ran a few more laps, waiting on Bill to get back from the parts store because I don't know where he had to go. But it was about an hour and a half before he got back. But we was in the pits. I came in, and there was about I had to wait about 15, 20 minutes before he got back. So we checked over everything on the car, pulled the pump off, trying to let it cool off a little bit because I'm going to tell you what, everything on that car was hot.
I guarantee you.
Yeah. I mean, we was tightening the exhaust off, and we had some nuts off, and we had a tarp underneath the car, and we laid them nuts down, and they just went right through the tarp. I mean, burned a hole right through there. But it was definitely fun and interesting.
Well, yeah, just for something that you didn't, just kind of thought about a couple of months before, and you just say, hey, let's try it.
Yeah, and I'm ready to go back next year, that's for sure. We know what to expect next year. Mm-hmm. We know things we're going to do differently, but we wasn't the only one running from Owensboro. Timmy Kirk and that bunch, they actually did pretty good. I think they finished 5th, I think.
Yeah, they were up there, in the top 10 for sure, and made it all the way to the last 25 minutes.
Yes, yeah.
Sheared her right front off back out there. And that car, and anybody who wants a grocery getter car for next year, that car is for sale on Facebook. So just look up Tim Kirk's Facebook and or his son, and you can see that car, and you can by golly go get it for the next year's grocery getter.
Right.
So,
I think it even comes with spare parts, radiators, and everything you need. Just sets you right up.
Well, cheap, and it's not very expensive just to get in it. I mean, if you guys, anybody out there is listening, just go see them. And like I said, we don't mind a schlep for them because, everybody needs to have fun, right? So,
yeah.
So it'll be a good time. Donnie, one thing I want to go into real quick. You've always been into, we'll get off the 24-hour race now, but if you guys, I know you've been a round track guy, stock car racing, things like that. Has that always been your favorite form of motorsports, or did you start out like, I like drag cars, or I like monster trucks or something, and then just like, well, stock car's pretty cool too, though?
I'd say I've always been stock cars.
So you that's something that's always been your passion, especially since your father raced, round track.
Yeah, and I just always, like I said, I was riding my go-kart when I was a little kid, I was just thinking I'm racing. Everything was always about racing. And I just enjoy it. It's probably favorite thing to do.
Yeah, besides coach baseball, which you're kind of out of now, but so racing's taking its place.
Yeah, I would say it'll be a few more years and I'll be back coaching baseball with that grandson.
There you go. You think about all your years in racing and all the people that you got the pleasure to see race or compete against, things like that. And it may take you a second to think of all of them, but I want you to list some of your favorite drivers and why you looked up to those people that competed on the track. That, man, you're just like, man, that's the guy. You know what I mean?
Well, I would say most memorable would be probably watching Ricky Rudd and Ricky Estes run. And actually my dad raced against Ricky Rudd back in the day. So, they're one of the favorites, watching them, man, they always put on a good show door to door. There's a whole bunch of people that I love watching over the years, but that's the ones that just stick out of my head right now.
Well, I'll tell you, no strangers to racing, or is the Estes family or Ricky Rudd and some of his family, both kids race now. Yep. So that's a family tradition there, just like the Estes family was. But you're right, back at the old, everybody calls it Mike Henry, but Central Park Raceway.
Yeah.
Big names there. Windy Hall Speedway, some of those different places. These guys really got down to business.
Yeah, they did. I miss the old Central Park Raceway. There's a lot of good people up there. Actually, all the tracks back then, good car counts. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping we can get it back there, but I don't know if we can or not. But
well, we'll definitely talk about that here in a minute, but what I want to do real quick is go ahead and take another commercial break, and we'll be back on the other side. I wanted to ask you about some social media stuff.
Okay.
All right.
Build a fire in the big iron. Here we go. The Bowling Green Daily News and T93 present the Vet City Motorcycle Music Fest. Friday and Saturday, October 12th and 13th. Live. Don't miss Foghat Live. Paul Smith and Wesley. Geneva. Devin Allman and Dwayne Betts. And Big Schmo. David Lee Murphy. And Gretchen Wilson. And Saturday it's Otis, Louisiana Swamp Donkey, Pat Travers, the Georgia Satellites,
keep your hands to yourself.
the Kentucky Headhunters, Lita Ford, and look what the cat dragged in. It's Brett Michaels Live. plus all the biker games. Brought to you by Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys, Bluegrass Biker News, Cyclefish, Park Distributors, Bowling Green Convention Center and Visitor Bureau, and Harley Davidson of Bowling Green. Get more at VetCityMotorcycleMusicFest.com.
And back again from the break, sitting here with Donny Feher. Donny, one thing I want to ask you, we got to talking about some of your favorite drivers and things like that from all your years of racing that you can remember. But one thing is, these kids today, and we talked about just a little bit about car count and things like that, and people being in the sport. This guy's buffing the floor out here in the mall. We're at the Town Square Mall. So, all the years of being in the sport, you've seen the ups and the downs, and you've seen what to do and what not to do. But these kids today, we've got to get them off their cell phones and out of these computers. And I know the arcade would be a great place for them to go, but if we want to get them on those racetracks and get them into the sport, what advice would you give to some of these young guys that maybe are just getting a car, want to get a car, want to get into the sport? Any advice that you can pull from over the years?
I would say mainly pick the class that you can afford to run and be decent, competitive. I mean, and just don't think you're going to go out there and win right off the bat. I mean, it takes several years to go out there and just start winning.
Right.
I mean, it is a little bit of work. I mean, you got to stay on top of your car, check everything's over. But, I mean, just basically pick what you can afford to run.
Right. Well, and I think that is important because, there are several classes out there. And I think it's really easy, especially these days. And it may not have been so back then, but these days, I think it's real easy to get in over your head very, very quickly.
Yeah, some of these cars, I mean, these upper classes, I mean, they're putting some money in them. I mean,
right.
But, and Bomber is like an entry-level car, class, but you got some big names out there in that class.
You do. You absolutely do. And most of the M&M crew have Bomber cars, so you guys stacked the deck a little bit on that one. But I think, and if you can talk to this, I think the school of thought there was, it's not saying anything to go back down to Bomber. I'm not saying nobody. It's not that they can't compete. It's just a lot of fun.
Yes, I mean when you don't have near as much money in that car, and you can go out there and you do a little rubbing and a little beating and banging. I mean, it don't hurt your feelings so much.
Yeah, absolutely. When you got a $15,000-$20,000 car, you go out there and beat and bang on it. It don't feel near as good as a $1,500 car.
Right. Might be up a little bit more now.
Yeah, so you know what I'm saying. I'm just stretching the truth a little bit. But,
just a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. But that's the thing is that's true. Is exactly what you said, and we've heard that a couple of times. Is get in where you fit in, not where you think you need to be.
Right. And really, there's a lot of people out there that'll help you out and steer you in the right directions and give you advice. I mean, almost everybody out there will.
Right. And I think that's important too. Is we've heard that several times. Is being able to, go to a racetrack, start hanging around the pits a little bit. Talk to some people, and maybe bounce some ideas. And what do you guys think? You think if I got this car, that I could do okay with it. And they're going to tell you because people know.
Yeah. And there's a lot of old cars out there as far as the Bomber class. You can take somebody's older race car that's been sitting around for a while and put it together and come out there and run. I mean, to me, the main thing is just freshen up a motor. You ain't got to build a big motor, just, something that's going to last and run. Put new bearings and rings in it and come on out and have some fun.
And that's what it's all about, is fun. And I think, you shouldn't lose sight of that because once you start taking it too seriously, that's when you can really get in deep.
Yes. Yeah. and I guess that's why we all like that Bomber class. I mean, we can go out there, and just have fun in it and not have to worry as much, In the other cars, like I drive Rusty Bolt, and, it's a lot more in the upper classes, It takes a lot more out of you. I mean, working on the car, staying on top of it.
Right.
And hopefully you have enough motor.
Right. And completely different setups between the Bomber class and the Rusty Bolt class, even a step above. I mean, you call the Rusty Bolt class a step above the Bomber class, maybe a step below the Cruiser class. And, you're right. And talk about how much more it is, not money-wise, you don't have to put a dollar sign on it, but just work-wise, what you've got to pay attention to, when you get out of that entry-level class and into one of those bigger classes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more that goes on, but I mean, even in the lower class, you still got to check your car over, but the upper classes do have a little bit more. You know, you got to stay on top of your springs and shocks and change them a lot more and stuff. But and far as from Rusty Boat to Cruiser, the cars ain't much different. I mean, the motors is probably the big thing that is the difference on them cars.
Right. And it steps up very quickly from Rusty Bolt to Cruiser. So,
yes.
Again, you know, why we're talking about all this is just because, you know, echoing back to what you said, you know, you got to get in where you know that you can compete and be into with the budget you have.
Yeah.
Well, Donnie, one thing I want to move into real quick is I don't know how big of a fan of social media you are, but as you can tell these days, back when we used to race, you know, we didn't really have it too much. Didn't really have cell phones with big screens on them and can get on the internet and things like it. Just made phone calls about it. If we sent a text, it probably cost us $15 or something. But you know, these days social media is taking over a lot of different things over the world, and racing is no stranger to that. And I want you to talk a minute about what social media, kind of your view on it in the racing world.
Well, I mean, I try to stay off of it. I look on there, but I try not to post nothing. I mean, you know, to me, I think it hurts racing, you know, because to me, there's a lot of negative. I mean, there is some positive, but it seems like more negative than there is positive.
Right.
But,
well, I think where you lean toward that is because people are going to pay attention more to negative things because it creates controversy, creates buzz and things like that. But I think that's where we need to maybe be a beacon in the racing world to try to reverse people's opinions, try to make sure that you know, we use social media for good and, you know, get results out there, get track schedules out there, and make sure people are updated on what the tracks are doing instead of trying to focus on some of the negative things that happen.
yeah, definitely, because, I mean, that, you know, a lot of people, they post this negative stuff, and they really don't even know what they're talking about. I mean, half your racers, you know, going out there racing don't even, you know, can't understand on what happens out there. I mean, stuff happens so quickly out there, you know, they think that, you know, so-and-so took so-and-so out, but that really wasn't the case. I mean, when you're running a foot off of somebody's bumper,
right,
and they let out of the gas pedal a little bit earlier than you do, I mean, you're on them. I mean, you know, of a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
I mean, and nobody, you know, I don't even, when I'm racing and something happens, I don't make an assumption right then. I go back, I watch the video, talk to my, you know, crew members and see what really happened, because what you think happened might not be what happened.
Right. And you know, we've got limited views in these cars.
Yes.
You know, I mean, yeah, you can turn around a little bit and see, but you know, it's not. We can't see from the outside of the car. So the only thing we can see is straight in front of us, or some people look behind them. You know, I don't know how those guys drive, but and sometimes it shows. But you know, but that's what we can see, and you know, I think we need to caution ourselves by not being so quick to judge and things that happen like that.
Yeah. I mean, because, yeah, like you said, you don't really know what's going on. I mean, everything happens so quick. I mean, sometimes I think I know what happened, and then I go back and watch the video, and like, well, that wasn't, you know, what I was thinking happened, you know. So, I mean, and I don't know, grandstand racers, it's always...
It's been around forever, but
yeah.
You know, no shortage. They've got their own platforms to say things on now, so that's where they make it maybe a little bit more dangerous to what we're trying to do.
Yes, yeah. I just wish they wouldn't post that negative stuff. You know, just stay positive. You know, and I don't know. That's
well, staying positive is the main thing, and that's what we preach, because you know, a lot of people can get on there and immediately, you know. These people are not in the tech line. They're not inside the race car. They're not in the pits. They don't understand about, you know, you and whoever get into it on the track. Maybe, you know, somebody get some bent fenders, right? Yeah, some bent feelings. But, you know, you guys get a little damage or something happens, spin outs, whatever, flat tires. They don't understand what goes on back in the pits, and that's not always. Everybody just assumes there's going to be fists and helmets flying and people's throwing chains or something. But it's not always like that. Two guys can, I mean, it's been proven, it works. Two guys can talk about this and keep a level head.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of good racers out there. I mean, and you get into it, bump somebody on the track. I mean, go there, apologize, whatever. Sometimes it's best just to stay out of their pits for a little while,
exactly.
And then go over there when they calm down a little bit. And usually at the next day, everything's fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
there is these. At the end of the day, we got to realize that these cars are just metal. They're not infinite supply of it, but it's not worth somebody's well-being and things like that just because your car got bent up a little bit.
Right. I mean, things happen. Like you said, you're going so fast out there and things happen so quick. I mean, sometimes it's nobody's fault, Right. It's why they call it an accident.
That's why they call it an accident. But I think, moreover, tying this into social media, I think we need to caution as racers and team owners and things that do that. Your fans are a direct reflection upon you. I mean, and I know people's like, well, I didn't even know that guy. He likes me, but I don't even know him. Well, and I know we can't police the stands and things like that all the time, drivers. But, again, it's a direct reflection, and I think we've seen time and time again how people that you didn't even know was affiliated with you, gets on social media, says something. Well, the next thing you know, it's coming to your door. Well, your fans up there saying this and that, and then you've got to try to deal with that. And I think that makes it hard to deal with sometimes.
It does. I was going to say, this brings me to a story with Melvin and Bill and all them. They used to have the shirts and stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, there was somebody wearing the shirts causing trouble up there, and then they tried to kick Bill, Melvin, and them out of the races for this guy causing trouble. And we was like, had nothing to do with us, but because he had that shirt on, it reflected us. But so now that it's been a few years, I think they brought some shirts this year, but yeah, they quit for a few years just for that reason.
I was gonna say, we haven't really seen much new M&M Racing shirts. It's been quite a while, and just like you said, but you're right. That's how easily it can happen. And nothing, guys, that you didn't even have an idea that this was even going on.
Right. We had no idea that was going on until they, come up to us later. And, we try to take care of it, I try to tell our guys, we try to tell our guys not to do anything. We try to watch our guys. But, you're going to have fans that, that you're not that close with, right, that is going to, cause problems like that. Right.
And we're not saying don't go out and make fans, because that's a lot of the point.
Right.
I'd rather have 100 fans in the stands if I could, but
yes.
But again, I think when you get to points like that, it does get hard to control. And again, everybody's got that little thing in their hand. It's called a cell phone or a tablet or whatever they got, and keyboard warriors go crazy. Yes. And these are not people that would ever say anything to anyone's face for fear of, what the inevitable could happen would happen. But again, if you've got an opinion, maybe go talk to somebody else, and somebody might have saw it different and said, but you see this, this is the reason why that happened. They got together, but, maybe he was avoiding a wreck, or this guy had a flat before you didn't see that,
Right.
And that's one of the things where maybe think for 5 minutes before you jump on there and post it, and especially about the tracks.
Yeah, and then, if you want to say something about the driver, go ask that driver first, what he thought about it, because he might have a totally different opinion than what you saw.
That's right. And that's the thing, is nobody's in that car but you. And, the track's going to make their decision, however they have to make their decision, and we've got to stick by that, because it's, it's their track, and we've all got to play by their rules. But I think it's important, again, and that's what we say here all the time, is don't bash any drivers, don't bash any tracks. You can not like Donny Feher. Okay, you can be a Colton Crisp fan and not like a Donny Feher. Same team, it doesn't matter, but they might like the way he drives versus the way you drive. Oh, he's a dirty, cheating sumbuck and all this stuff. Yeah, well, everybody's got an opinion, and it's okay to not like certain people and stuff like that. That's why it's called being a fan of someone. Same things happens in sports teams. They might like one team versus another. But we need to make sure that doesn't show through. You can cheer for somebody,
right?
And but don't go crazy and get on this tear about how Donny is running over everybody every week, and I seen him over throwing tire irons at kids and stuff. That don't happen. Come on, there's no reason to trash you, and they don't even know you.
Right, especially they don't even know me.
Right.
I mean, and the way I look at it, if they boo me, which I've had a few of them the last few years, boo me, that don't bother me. That usually means I'm doing something good.
The hater's going to hate, you know what I mean?
Right.
But to have fans, I mean, you know, you got to have darkness and light. You got to have the haters and you got to have fans. I mean, it's both sides of the story there.
Right. And, you know, there's several fans out there, you know, especially these little kids. I just love it when the little kids come out there, you know, and say hi, get their picture taken, whatever. I mean, to me, that's just cool, you know, because hopefully they'll grow up, they'll want to race, come out here, and join us someday.
Right. Well, that circles back to what we were talking about with, you know, advice for kids and things like that. I think that's important, and we see that. It's one thing to have your whole crew out there, but if a line of kids wants to come out there, how much does it mean? And especially, you know, these driver meet and greets and things like that when they have Fan Appreciation Night, which I don't think they do enough, quite frankly, but they have Fan Appreciation Night. But you guys bring your cars to the front straightaway, and you can go out there and you can give out candy, you can give out, you know, pictures, you sign the pictures, because for a kid to get that, you know, kids love stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
And if they can get an autographed picture of Donny Feher and his car, you know, who's to say that they won't grow up saying, like, man, that guy took the time to say something to me, to sit here and get a picture taken with me. I got to touch his car, I got to sit in the seat. That sticks with kids.
Oh, yes. And that's I enjoy that so much, you know, when they do them, the meet and greets, you know, I mean, handing out the candy, the little kids coming up, signing the autographs. It's pretty cool.
And you never know, you know, and it may be 50 kids come up there, but you never know when that one kid will hold on to that memory, and it's going to drive that competitive spark to get out in those cars one day.
Oh yeah, I've seen a few of them come from little kids. Come on out there.
There's a few that definitely and do quite well.
Yes.
Over the years, you know.
Yes.
But last thing on social media, again, you know, like what we're saying with that impression, and I'll tie this in here, with that impression you just made on a kid like that, you know, little young child, these kids are 6 and 7 years old and got cell phones and Facebook accounts. I don't know how this happens, but it does happen. And, you know, I think there should be a certain age limit that you need to be on there, but even 40-year-olds ain't mature these days sometimes. But one thing I am, you know, tying around into that is, you just made that positive impression. How easy is it for somebody to make a negative impression on that child, that same child,
right,
on Facebook?
I'd say it would have to be pretty easy. I mean, in the post I've been seeing going around here lately, I mean, you know, kids are reading these things. I mean, we need to. There ain't no way to stop it, though.
No, there's not. But, you know, but if we can help in any way, I think we're obligated to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
Because, you know, opinions change with the drop of a hat. So, you know, that's what we got to be cautious about. One thing I want to roll into real quick here. We do something on this show called the State of Racing, and what that is I want to know, you know, we started out the episode and we just like to talk about the old school and the new school bridge there. You know, you remember what it was like back in the, you know, the mid to late 90s, the early 2000s, man, when we had, you know, tons of cars, they was parking them on top of each other and out on the road and everything else. You know how it used to be, and you know these classes were huge. I mean, every class had a huge ton of cars. What do you think these days, and I know we've hit a decline, you know, and especially when the time you were away, you know, it was a big decline there. What do you think about the state of racing, where we're at now, racing locally around this area?
Far as, I mean,
well, like how are we doing? How's the product of racing now compared to then? Are we kind of on an upswing again? Are we digging out of the hole a little bit, because we kind of got down in the ditch where, you know, car counts were low and fan attendance was low and it was hard for tracks?
Yeah, hopefully we're on the uphill coming back up. I mean, I noticed, I think they're having that enduro this year, and I think the no race car enduros, I think that might help. You know, if we can get some of these cars, we need some of these where they can do these enduros and then have a place for them to go next year with a class to run. That way all these cars are built and then they can be running them. I mean,
right.
Try to build these cars up. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the main thing is sustainability. And I think, I mean, what do you think about how we are rules-wise? You know, are we, I mean, how do you view it from your side of it?
Rules wise, I wish we enforced the rules a little bit more, checked a little bit more, and DQ'd a little bit more. I mean, yeah, it's going to hurt and it might drive some cars away for a few weeks, but I think we'd gain more in the long run. I mean, there's a lot of people, accused me of cheating, last couple of years, but, I'd be willing to tear my car down. I was willing any week they wanted to tear mine down. I try to go by the rules. I mean, yeah, I might push a few of them, but, that's kind of part of our job,
racing,
to get that thing right there to the edge, But I don't know. I think sometimes that these cars that just walk off into class and just leave everybody, I think that kind of hurts a little bit. Right. So, because, these people are thinking, well, he's just walking all over these other guys. Why should I try to go out there and do it, I ain't going to have a shot, So, I mean, I think that hurts a little bit, but I think we need to do something about this entry level to get these people in there.
So, I mean, one thing is, and you brought this up, tech and cars. Very, very important part of the sport. I mean, if you're going to have a set of rules, you got to tech the cars and enforce the rules. And again, guys, one disclaimer here: we're not talking about anybody in specifically any track
right.
in specific,
No.
in specific. There, we're not. We're absolutely not. But just our regional racing here in our area that we run these tracks locally. Talking about teching cars, I think you're right. Whereas you might lose a few guys for a little while.
Right.
But I think when you show people that you're going to enforce the rules and say these guys ain't getting by with it now, you build your car right and come on down here and race. We'd love to have you, but you need to pay attention to our rule packets because this is what we got for a reason.
Yeah, and a lot of it I think right now is they want us drivers to do that, put the claim on and tear somebody down. But my thing is, all right, we're running for $200. Second place pays $125. Well, it's when you put that money up, even if they ain't legal and you get your money back, you still lose $100 of that.
Yep.
So now I just lost $25 when I was from second claiming the first place, because I got that $200, but I lost $100, so I only made $100. Which second place I would have made $125. Right. So why would I claim him?
Right.
I mean,
right.
That's where I think it hurts. I think if far as that $100 loses, I think the guy that was cheating ought to have to pay the $100. It shouldn't have to come out of my pocket. If I'm claiming him, that $100 just because he wasn't right shouldn't come out of my pocket. It should come out of his pocket.
Right. So
maybe that would help a little bit.
Right. And we do have a claim rule on most classes.
Yeah.
Except for the bigger classes that run around here, but you do have a claim rule, and I don't know if that's just a cheap way to get around tech. I mean, I would not accuse anyone of doing that, but I don't know that claim rules are there. They've been around for a long time, but I think you could prevent more by just pulling the hoods off of them after a race, the top 3, top 5, whatever you want to claim, tech there, and pull the hoods off of them. You've seen a lot of tracks that have the wheel in there, and they'll go into tech line. They'll spin that wheel, and if it says rear end, by golly, we're checking the rear ends.
Right.
If it says carburetor, that's what we're checking. If it says if you got to have a temperature gauge in it, well, you better have a temperature gauge in the daggum car. But you get what I'm saying there.
Right.
And I think that's where you're talking about is teching is very, very important, and I think that can really help or hurt any particular day, and that's tracks across the United States or in the world.
Yeah. I mean, and I travel around to a lot of these different tracks, and it's pretty much the same thing, at all these tracks. And that's just one thing is, my opinion. I wish that we'd enforce a little bit more.
Right.
But
well, one thing I do want to ask you, and to every flip side, what do you like about our racing here locally? I mean, are we doing things right in some aspects that you really think that we're really on the right track there?
Yeah. I mean, to me, everybody's family. So I mean, everybody's doing a heck of a job. I mean, that's every track around here that they're working these tracks, doing the best they can. I mean, Mother Nature, is really hard on them. I mean, these are dirt tracks. It's hard to get them just right and perfect. I mean, it's just hard to do. But I think everybody's been doing a fine job, and I'm pretty happy with all the tracks around here.
Well, one thing, and you can talk to as well, is when you look at, and you talk about family, I mean, we're all a big racing family. I think that I notice it more now than maybe we did, 15, 20 years ago now. But we notice it more now, the way people get along. You don't have as many pit fights, or this guy don't like that guy, and I heard this guy's an idiot. I think, and you may see the same thing, but I think people are closer now.
I think so too. I mean, because I remember as a little kid, there was a lot of fights around.
That's how it got settled back
right. Yeah. But, luckily we don't see that much anymore. Right. I mean, maybe a little bit would be good for the, crowd to get them going, but overall, yeah, I mean, most people get along back there pretty good,
Yeah. And you're still going to have run-ins with people. Guys going to get into each other, and there's going to be some feelings get hurt. But, again, like we said, two guys can go just cool off a little bit, talk about it. Yeah. And I think we can work it out.
Oh, yeah. And, most time, like, I know for us as a group, as an M&M, group, we pretty much, that next day, we're over it.
Right.
That's
the way to be,
Yeah.
If you're going to keep dragging it around, it's just going to weigh on your mind. It's going to weigh on your body. It's just going to be hard to deal with.
Right. And there ain't no sense in it. Let's just go out there and race and let's have fun.
That's it. And, I want you to take your race driver hat off, but I want you to put your promoter hat on. And what is some stuff that, you think about our racing product? And we have, normal racing classes. It's pretty much just a routine show most of the time, unless we have our big races, just like we had the race on Memorial. But what was some of the things that, you've seen, you could have seen it on TV, anything like that? What could we bring in here, maybe some specialty stuff? Don't have to happen all the time, but some stuff you might like to see at a track going forward in the future.
As far as other than racing at the tracks?
Well, either racing, or it could be classes we don't normally run, sprint cars, late models. What can we do? What would you like to see at a local dirt track or an asphalt track?
I would definitely like to see the late models and sprint cars both. I mean, the big boys. I mean, but I know it costs a lot of money to get them guys in there, and it's kind of hard to do when you ain't got enough seating to pay for it all.
Right.
I mean, that's where we're at on that part of it. I think we need more seating at these tracks to be able to get bigger races, but it takes money. So
it does take money. But that's where we maybe if they're one race a year that the guys could set aside something to try to get those big things in here. Do you think it would really draw a crowd if we could do it right?
I think so, and I think they're putting on the old school enduro. I think this year, out at Windy, I think that might help too. And especially if we could do that and then carry into with the scrappers again. They would have all, somewhere to go and run. Right. After we build all these cars, because everybody's going to be building them. So.
Oh yeah. Well, see, and that's the thing, and I think we've kind of lost out. The scrappers kind of moved over to asphalt from the dirt, and I think we're remiss on not having those guys back still on dirt. I think it's a lot of fun there.
Yeah, it's fun to drive and to watch, and and it was affordable. I mean, we go get a $300 car and go out there and have a blast with it. Right. I mean, and if you tore it up, you take it to the scrapyard and get about $250 back,
Right.
Only losing $50, I'm sure you're going to have $50 worth of fun.
Oh, you get $50 worth of fun, I can guarantee you that. But, well, Donny, it's been a great conversation, buddy. It's been an awesome sitting down here. Here at the end, we always like to do a portion on sponsors and people that you can thank and that make it possible for you. You've been racing a long time and have got the chance to come back and do some things here lately. Run through down a list of the people that help you out and make it possible for everything that you get to do.
Well, I'd like to thank my wife, for putting up with all this. And then, Melvin Miller, he helps, on all these cars. I mean, Chris Bunch, he doesn't, really all three of us, we sit there and we work a lot of hours, put a lot of hours in these cars. You got Bill Mormon, Colton Chris, my son, James Riggs. The list goes on, and I'd like to thank Willie's Carburetors. Man, they really help us out. Mm-hmm. And 231 Auto Sales, Greg's Body Shop. I'm trying to think, there's Skillz VR.
You better think then.
Right.
Consider we did a whole episode from here. That's a pretty cool deal. If you want to give a shameless plug to Skillz VR, you just go right on ahead, because we enjoyed being here. You guys have welcomed us in, and we appreciate you letting us do that. So talk about it a little bit there.
Well, all I can say is just come on down and try these things out. And yeah, we got the simulators, we got Extreme Machine, we got these stations out here. I mean, it's nothing but a good time. I mean, I just enjoyed sitting back and watching some of these people have a pretty good time in here. I mean, Saturday night, there was some pretty good laughs going on in here.
Oh, was there? Well, I think it's a great place. I mean, you've got things like that, the place, the lock-in escape rooms and things like that, people can do as a group. And liken that to old school like bowling and stuff like that. People could come down here to the arcade. You can get, like you said, 4 people to a room. Guys can do teams or against each other. These simulators, I mean, everybody wants to, race car drivers especially, everybody's like, oh, I can beat you. I know I can run better laps than you can, And then that's where the competition comes in. It's just a lot of fun.
Yes.
And it's very affordable.
Yes, real affordable.
And that's the good thing about it. But one thing I did want to ask you was, how did this come about? You and your son involved in this venture here and your whole family. But how did you guys be like, you know what, this would be a cool idea?
Well, my son, he's the one that came up with it, and then he told me about it, and I said, well, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Let's do
it. So you're like, I don't really understand it, son, but by golly, we'll give her a heck.
Right. He's the computer smart person, so.
Well, seemed to be pretty race car smart as well, because doing quite well in that bomber car. Just like I said earlier, when you kind of stepped out of that car, he stepped in it. And kept running good.
Yes. I mean, I couldn't be more proud of him this year. I mean, he's done, consistent, second and third. I mean, he's got a lot of thirds. I mean, he's done really well in the car.
Didn't he get a win?
Yes,
he got his first win, didn't he?
Yes, he got it on the big night, money night.
that makes the wins a lot sweeter when you get the big money.
Yes, it does, especially for me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He ain't paying attention there over. I guess we should give an update. Josh Tyler's still down here. They're playing. I don't know what they're playing over there, shooting something. It does look like a lot of fun, though.
Yes.
But anyway, Donnie, man, appreciate it. Anything else you want to add?
No.
What's your plans for next year? Anything like that? We're heading down to getting close to the end of the racing season. You got, I know you had some health problems. You did have that.
I know what.
Everything on that, but had some health problems, and that kind of sidelined you for a little bit.
Yeah, that bothered me quite a bit, not being able to race most of this year. I think I got 3 races in, and then I had to sit for most of the rest of the season. So that hurt my feelings a little bit. But next year I'll be back out in the Rusty Bolt, and then. I'll probably be driving a bomber too.
You just can't quit, can you?
I know it, man. Well, we're gonna have some good drivers in that class next year.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be good and fun.
That's
the main thing right there. Is fun.
Well, getting more people, getting more people to participate always makes it a lot more fun. We know racing's expensive, guys, and we know that even in entry level, it is expensive. But if you spend your money right. You pay attention to what you're doing, you can have $1 million worth of fun for X amount of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway. Well, Donnie, again, appreciate you coming on the show, man. I know that we tried to catch up with you right before the surgery and things like that, and you kind of got sidelined there where you couldn't do a whole lot anyway. But and by golly, had surgery, and I think he was at the track the next weekend. He didn't really get out of the truck, but he was there.
No, actually, that's when my son won, and I was at the house and watching the race, and then I seen them last few laps where it looked like he might be able to win it, so I jumped in the truck and come on down.
You got to be there. That's the thing, you got to be there.
Yeah, but that was something else, just to be there for his first win, and then like last night, Colton Crisp got his first win. He pretty excited for him. Trying to get these young guys, bringing them up in here, giving them a car, letting them drive. That's what it's all about.
Well, you can hone your skills that way. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be $1 million hot rod. I mean, because like guys can be accused of jumping in too quick above their head, and that's the thing is maybe you should take some time, learn how to race, learn how to drive, and then progress.
And then
from there.
Step up. Yeah.
Right. And I think it's important, just like you said, for people to get an opportunity, and Melvin, has done that several times, and we know that he's done that, and I know he don't like to be, made over too much there, but he's humble, hard nosed, but he's humble, but he does, do things for a lot of people.
Oh yeah. I mean, we all help each other out so much, because that's what it takes. I mean, you can't just do it by yourself. I mean, we spend a lot of time, me and Melvin and Chris, and we spend a lot of time on these cars, and Colton, there's a few of them that help us, and it's just a lot of work, and and I think, thankful that I got somebody like Melvin and Chris and everything to help me out. I mean, I just missed it that we didn't run long enough in that 24-hour race for Melvin to get in that car. That was going to be something to see.
That was going to be something to see. He don't normally get behind the wheel,
No.
Kind of figured out that owning's a little better than driving, but that would have been something.
Yes, it would have.
There's always next year.
That's right.
There's always next year. So, anyway, we're going to back on out of here, and again, appreciate you being on the podcast, man. It means a lot to us that you support us. We'd love to support you back, and Donnie's not going anywhere anytime soon. We're going to see you at a racetrack, hopefully sooner than later,
yes.
And right back to doing business as usual.
Oh yes, I'm ready.
All right, Donnie, we appreciate it. We'll be back on the other side of the break here to close the episode out.
Are you looking for a hometown barbershop specializing in the best haircuts in Western Kentucky? Master Barber Chad Thompson has everything you need to keep you looking sharp for not only your special occasions, but for every day as well. Offering a line of haircut products to take care of your hair between cuts. Walk-ins are welcome, and you're always going to find friends and neighbors at Chad's. You can find Chad at 10655 Highway 764 in Whitesville, Kentucky. Or you can give him a call at 270-903-8183.
And we're back from the last break here, and still at Skillz VR Arcade, man. And man, we had a great show. Welcomed us in, and it's been a great show with Donnie, man. Catching up with some of the old school memories and things like that, getting his take on a few things racing wise around here, and new ventures that they're involved in, just like old ventures. Been a pretty cool deal.
He's like I said, at the beginning of the episode, just a cool dude. Level-headed, calm, collected. Very water off a duck's back kind of guy. Just lets it happen, and it's an attitude I think a lot of other people should have, especially when you can let those cooler heads prevail and be thoughtful about things.
Well, being humble is the main thing.
Agreed.
And that's how we need to keep things, and humbleness is the way it needs to be. So we need to preach that. And
Agreed.
I think these young guys need to realize that it's not all about being hot. I know you're young, and I know you're full of, for lack of a better term, you're full of piss and vinegar. But the thing of it is you got to keep a level head, especially when you're out there on that racetrack.
Yep.
What form of racing you're in, just keep a level head, and Donnie preaches that, and I think that's important to remember.
Well, and again, another legacy racer, part of a generational family. His dad raced, his son races, and they've just done such cool stuff. The grocery getter, that's how cool of an experience is that, and I'm thankful and grateful that he took the time to talk to us and open up their business and let us take up their time, and just another cool guy. And I can't speak highly enough for our guests and the other members of the racing community that I consider family.
Right, and that's important. And you're getting to meet new family members all the time, cousins you didn't even know you had. So that's a cool deal for you to be in here and hearing some of these stories. And like I said, I remember when Donnie raced and was very, very competitive. I remember all the crazy figure eight races,
right,
and just nutso things that were going on, especially at the old school Windy Hollow.
Right.
But that's cool to hear some reminisce on some of those stories. Here's some new stuff, especially about the grocery getter. I'm so interested in that race. I mean, I think it's a cool deal that they're putting that on up there at Bearfield. I wish it were closer. I wish we had one that was a little bit closer, maybe. That's a long drive up there. It's almost up to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and northern Indiana, and it's a long drive. But they if we had something a little closer, I think it'd be a lot easier for a lot of the old boys to get in on it, or the regional racers here. But if you're going to commit to something, commit big.
Sure.
And if you're going to make the trek, and those guys committed big with the cars they had, and to make the trek up there, and they did a good job. So, it was fun hearing those stories about the record drivers getting in on the race and everything else. It was just nuts, and they said there was cars flipped over, and man, they didn't even know it for 2 or 3 laps. I don't see how you didn't know, but it's neat to hear stories like that.
Agreed.
we don't have a whole lot else to talk about these today. It's been a good episode. I think the episode speaks for itself, and I don't want to take anything away from Donnie's time on the microphone because
Agreed.
we had a great time. Catching up with old friends and things like that, and we're doing big things. I think that shows. We talked a little bit about being on-track announcers at Windy Hollow Speedway. It's pretty cool. Again, we want to do that for everybody. We're not just typecasting Windy Hollow Speedway, so do not mistake that.
Nope.
We don't do that here. We'd love to do it at Cedar Ridge. We'd love to do it at West Kentucky Speedway. Hell, we'll do it for the drag strip. We don't care.
I'll do it
at Kentucky Motor Speedway.
I'll do it at a soapbox derby.
Near you, by golly, on one of the best tracks in the nation here,
True
right
story.
here in Owensboro, Kentucky, out of Ben
True
Halls
story.
Park. We've heard that many times. So, we'll do it for anyone. And we love to promote your business. We'd love to promote your racing program. We'd love to promote anything you're racing-wise, motorsports-wise, non-motorsports-wise, sports, pedal power cars, Fred Flintstone, whatever.
Hey, if your niece makes the straight A, she's on the honor roll, let us know.
Yeah, let us know. We'll promote it.
We'll shout it out.
We like it. As long as she raced somebody else for that straight A.
Competition, man. It's all competition.
As long as she got down and dirty, been a few fenders getting that straight A. But, I think it's important, man. And we're doing big things here. Bluegrass Motorsports Media is taking off as well, doing big things with that.
And again, we're part of Bluegrass Motorsports Media. We are not, the entity. We are members of that affiliation, and we want to continue to grow that as well. So just throwing that out there.
Right, and partners now with Blake Smith. We've always been friends with Blake, in his endeavors, and he's free to do a lot more things with us now, and it's a pretty cool deal that how he's able to do that. So we appreciate him coming on board and helping us out here as well.
Agreed.
And not necessarily just helping us out. I mean, he's helping himself out because we're all a team.
Yep.
We like to partner with the tracks. We like to partner with anyone we can.
The Speed Zim and the Hall of Fame.
Right, get down there and check out the Speed Zim. We haven't given them a shout out in a couple of weeks, and we need to do that. Get down there, check out some of the cool stuff down there at the Kentucky Motorsports Hall of Fame and the Speed Zim. We're located right inside of one another. Hopefully, it's getting cooler temperatures. Hopefully, the air's working down there like we were down there a while back. But there's a lot of cool stuff you can see, and they're having a benefit for Army Armstrong. And it probably will have to happen since we recorded this episode.
Yeah.
But October the 2nd, it was a pretty cool deal.
Blake and I will actually be there, and we will try to talk to some people and get some interviews from the Benefit for Army, and hopefully you'll get to hear that.
That would be a cool deal, man. And so if they want to find that, they can find us on the starting line,
on the interwebs.
Hopefully on the finish line, too. You can find us iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict, Podbean.com, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, YouTube, Overcast, Radio Public, 2 new ones we just got.
Yep.
Where else can we find ourselves?
The Facebook, the website.
Yeah, everything like that. You can
Yep.
find us on the website, ConwayRacingTeam.com, also the BentFenderPodcast.com, Conway Racing Team on Facebook, the Bent Fender Podcast on Facebook, Bluegrass Motorsports Media on Facebook. You can find us at Twitter at Conway Race Team, Instagram Conway Racing. As always, our sponsors here at the podcast and on the race car, we love to give them a shout out. Mach 5 Race Cars, Parts and Carts, Fairview IT Management, Martin's Towing and Recovery, Chad's Barbershop, Slingshot Media, Glenstone Construction, Lori Kimball Home Realty, Hogtane Racewear and Apparel, and also Willie's Carburetor and Dyno Shop. So it's a cool thing. Again, been down here at Skillz VR Arcade. It's a cool place. Come down, check them out, man. They just opened. Been open about a week or so now,
Yeah.
and it's a pretty cool deal. Don't forget Vet City Motorcycle and Music Fest,
Yep.
October 12th and 13th. Go see Jimmy and his gang down there.
Ooh,
Bluegrass, not the Bluegrass, but the
Corvette
Museum.
It's October.
It is October.
Do you know what that means?
What's that?
It's Halloween time.
It is Halloween.
Do you know what Halloween time means?
Means the haunt out at Diamond Lake.
Fright Night Haunt at Diamond Lake is open. It's gonna this weekend coming up, October 5th, 6th is gonna be the first official weekend. And I'm gonna throw a little spoiler out there. I don't know if Nathan actually knows this or not. His wife's gonna be in the haunted house.
She is scared to death of haunted houses, but love to be a performer in one. So that way she don't have to get scared. She can do the scaring, and I believe Wes might take a little part in that as well.
I am. I'm gonna throw on some face paint. Maybe see what I can do about making some people pee their pants.
It's going to be a good time. So don't forget that they're all through the month of October, probably, several dates in October, every weekend for sure.
Every Friday and Saturday, I know.
Right. So Fright Night Haunt out at Diamond Lake. Beautiful place out there. Go out there.
Ooh,
nothing
scary.
screams. Ooh, scary. Know what I'm saying? Good friend of ours, Robbie Darrington. You've heard his episode on the podcast. no stranger to fun is he, and he's involved in that as well. So go out there and support him, just like he supports us and what we do. So, again, hey, it's been a good show.
Yep.
We probably ought to back on out of here because, heck, we're taking up their time here at Skillz VR Arcade. They probably want to go home. But we, again, thank the Feher family for allowing us to come down here, do an episode of the Bent Fender podcast from down here.
Yep.
We're going to keep doing everything we can for you guys. We're bringing it big. We're blowing up in a good way, hopefully not in a bad way, and blowing up, and it's just a lot of fun.
We haven't wound up on topics yet, so that's a win. That is a definite win.
On topics, you know what I mean?
Anyway, so
if you're on topics, that means you must have done something right. The haters is hating. So
November 3rd, remember that date.
That's
it's
right.
coming around the corner.
It is coming around the corner, about a month away now. So you just remember that. We'll let you in on the secret, and you're going to love what we got to say.
Agreed.
So, Wes, the microphone, Lou Allen.
Nathan, Pork Chop Conway.
Hey, we're going to get out of here, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the best up-and-coming motorsports podcast on the internet. Tune in next week to see who we're trading paint with on the Bent Fender podcast.